5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good afternoon. Yes, afternoon it is. How the devil are you all? Welcome along to LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube. Please join in the chat. And if you're watching it on catch up on YouTube, just stick your comments below. Why not? Let me know what you think. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, whatever that may be, thank you very much for lending us your ears. The football world's going mad. The football world is going mad. As the headline today is Leeds ponder shock Farke dismissal. Now, we all know that he's very good at getting teams up and not good at keeping them up. But sacking him already? Leeds United. Falling apart again, are they? But look, this is a little bit different because obviously we're talking Leicester, but I just look any way of knocking Leeds down, we obviously want to take. But look, we're talking Leicester. Leicester, well, we knew it was coming. It was coming for a long time, and it finally arrived. Like a southwestern train, you knew it was coming, but you just didn't know when. That's been our season. This season, but we are down, and of course everybody's talking about it. We are, other Leicester fan channels are, and please do check them all out. We're all doing the same community here, and you've got the Athletic, you've got the newspapers as well, you've got the radio stations. I've recently done things for Capital and Hits in East Midlands. I put comments on how I'm feeling and how the fans are feeling, etc. It's all over. And of course, the biggest sports radio platform, although you can watch it on YouTube and I think on Fire TV, whatever it is talkSPORT. Those of you that will know this channel well will realise and know that we are part of the talkSPORT podcast network, the fan network. And as such, they've allowed me to use two clips from two of their shows talking about Leicester City's relegation. We're going to look at both the clips. Now, I've seen bits, but I haven't seen them all the way through. So I will be reacting to these the same way as you are. So what we'll do is we'll play them. And as we go through them, I'll stop them at points to make comments. The first one was a show which was hosted by Alex Crook and Scott Minto. And the second one was a show that was hosted by, had to be Jim White and, of course, everybody's favourite, he says, Simon Jordan. So like I say, what we'll do is we'll play them along and we'll see what people say and see if you agree with what my thoughts are on them. Gray, hi Gray, how are you? Welcome along. I know an odd time for me to be doing this, but to be honest with you, I can't do it tonight. And I've got a few other things planned towards the end of the season. And apparently they had Kieran, I presume you put KH. Do you mean Kieran Dewsbury Hall? KH. I presume that's who you mean. But anyway, so what we're going to do, like I say, is play the two shows one after the other. But as we go through them, I will be stopping them, making comments on what they're saying. And look, I am still struggling. Oh, you're still struggling with that cough. I'm still struggling with that cough, mate. I'm still on the old Lemsip. I've got strepsils, and I still haven't seen my newly born granddaughter yet. So, so KH wasn't Kieran Dewsbury Hall. Yeah, it was that. Thing is, though, right, and this is where it's going to get interesting, which I put in the social media. Keep going. I'll try. The interesting thing is that there actually sometimes you have to take the medicine, as me and Gray well know at the moment, that we don't like to be told the truth. And look, people don't like talk about it. And I don't know if anybody saw the show yesterday. I did a show called Sack the Board with Craig, and it had Rob Tanner on. It is available on the channel. And look, I say a lot of what I don't mean because I have to, as the host, disagree with what my guests are saying. Otherwise, it'd be a very boring program. What do you think of? Oh, yeah, I agree. What do you think of? Oh, yeah. Do you think? Yeah, I think that. Yeah, well, and if I agree with anything, so a lot of the time I say things that I don't necessarily mean. As Craig always says, I'm very good at playing the devil's advocate. And that's basically what these shows do. If you don't like what they are saying about Leicester, what do? You ring them up and you say, you're talking a load of, cow spherical objects. Now, that's what they want you to do. I get plastered sometimes for things I put on Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever it's called these days, Blue Sky, and all that. But I'm putting up things, not that I necessarily think is right, but things that I want you guys to react to. Some people get it, some people don't. Melanie is in. Hi, Melanie. I'm a Villa fan, but my hubby born and bred in Leicester. To say he's not happy is an understatement. Look, we've seen worse as Leicester City, and I would absolutely say that it's part of being a football club. You have to take the ups with the downs. Look, Man United, how long were they this amazing team? And look at them now. Before Man United, Liverpool were this amazing team. Look at them. Well, it took them 30 years to win a Premier League. We managed to do it before they did. So, teams have cycles. Usually in the gym, I grant you. Absolutely, Chris. And Gray says, I hate Simon Jordan, love to bring him out. Do you know what, though? He does talk a lot of sense. I'd love to have him on this show. If anybody knows Simon Jordan, get him on this show. I want to talk to him about Leicester. He's controversial, and like me, I know for the fact, having spoken to people at talkSPORT, he is very much, I'll say something controversial to get a reaction. Right, let's do this then. But can I just say, sorry, back to Melanie. Congratulations, quarterfinal of the Champions League. It's good for Midlands teams, isn't it, eh? Good for Midlands teams. Bad luck at not getting through. Kind of happy, I'm sorry, because that's obviously as far as we went. But what can I say? It's better than Arsenal have managed up until now. Let's just say up until now. So we're going to start, like I say, listening to Alex Crook and Scott Mills on their show, and then afterwards we will listen to Jim White and Simon Jordan. This is Let's Talk Leicester, talkSPORT Reaction. Okay, Gray has just come in with, he hated us for beating PSR. Had Nottingham Forest done what we did, would we be sitting there going, well done, Forest, well done. Yeah, you've taken the Premier League down a notch. No, we'd be saying, you cheats, how did you get out of that? That isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. It's all football, Gray, it's all football. Tony says, if RVN is the answer, what is the question? What is a dickhead? There you go. That's it. Right, here we go then. Let's start with the first show. And this is, I say, Alex Crook and Scott Minto.
Right. I have reached out to sources at Leicester today to ask if we're expecting any significant developments. But yeah, just from his body language and what he was saying there, and you obviously have made the same deduction, I don't think he thinks he's going to keep his job.
Right. So before I give my opinion, it really interesting when you look in the whites of someone's eyes and they can say something, but their eyes can tell something else, and with the body language, what were you feeling? It
felt to me like he was just playing a political game to make sure that he gets a nice payoff come the end of the season.
Yeah.
He was speaking in a similar vein when he was at United as interim manager and Ruben Amorim had been appointed, and obviously there was that period where they had to wait for him to get in situ, and Ruben was saying, well, I'm just here to try and get as many wins as possible. Again, he knew he wasn't going to be part of the furniture, but he didn't want to just quit.
Be honest with you, look, I feel sorry for him. I think anyone taken over would have struggled to have kept Leicester up, and it's a shambles behind the scenes, not just sort of on the pitch. And until that's sorted first, then it's going to be very difficult. And as I say, with what's happening with the EFL just waiting to hammer them and say, like, put them in a business plan where they're probably going to have to sell most of their best players, whoever they can sell.
Well, that's a brilliant question, because their latest books came out and the indication was they...
Right, let's just take that point first of all about Ruud van Nistelrooy. He has no obligation to walk. Would you, if your company came to you and said, and I'm going to say, I've actually been in this position. I left a job that I'd been in for 20 odd years and went only about 10 years ago, if that actually, and went to another job. And 2 weeks after I handed my notice in, they announced redundancies. If I'd waited, I could have taken the redundancy and then gone on to the job that I then applied for. You do what is best for yourself. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy, and look, even if he walks and doesn't get a payoff, we know he's going to be on vast amounts of money. I go back to Nigel Pearson when he took over at Watford, and he was asked, I think it was on the Sam Allardyce podcast, why did you take that job knowing, every manager gets sacked virtually? And he said, well, I'd have got me money anyway. These managers, and this is why, it is so wrong with management, because they know when they go into a club, and people say, well, who'd come to Leicester? There's lots of managers, because they know they'll get a 3-year contract, and if they fail with that 3-year contract, that they'll get a nice payoff. And why shouldn't they leave? Now, somebody said the other day, it may well have been Gray, to be honest with you, that Wayne Rooney left Plymouth. When he left Plymouth, they didn't actually sack him. He left by mutual consent, which meant he didn't get a payoff. Now, that I have to say, well, look, we hate Wayne Rooney, don't we? But it is such. He doesn't need the money. Let's be honest with you. His wife's got a load of endorsements. So is he. He's worth millions. He gets jobs with, punditry. He does not need that money. And he made a very, very, very good gesture by doing that. Ruud doesn't need the money, because he'll have earned $1 million probably already just in the half season that he's been with us. So he doesn't. I mean, to be honest with you, look, if you won $1 million on the lottery tomorrow, you'd retire because you wouldn't have to work again. You just live off the interest, So he does, but he knows he'll get another job somewhere else because he's Ruud van Nistelrooy. No matter how bad he was at Leicester, people. Well, look at Wayne Rooney. He's already been linked with another job. Hopefully not us. But so yes, he could do the decent thing. I don't think he's that character, to be honest with you. I really don't. PSR is good rate. That will come up in a minute, to be honest with you.
They would have to sell players this summer. Apart from the goalkeeper, Hermansen, are there many other players who are going to raise much money?
Again, I've been saying this all the time. The EFL are... Look, they're as corrupt and allegedly and incompetent as the FA Premier League is. Look at what they did to Bury. They stitched that club up and one of the oldest clubs in the Football League, put them out of business. Because they had agreed to appoint a man that they hadn't done the proper due diligence on, allegedly, again, what Berry fans are saying. So we've got the EFL are going like, you fucked us over last time. You thought you got away with it. Now you're back down with it. Let's see who's laughing now. They've got that big chitty chitty bang bang child catcher net waiting for us to drop into it. And they're going to have, as they've just said, management plans, transfer embargoes, probably points deduction as well. Here we go.
Not many, and there's going to be a lot on big wages as well. So that plus, EFL waiting to hammer them because what happened a couple of seasons ago. I mean, just on Rude, I feel for him, but 8 points from 20 games and 4 came in the first 2 games. I mean, there's no way you can keep your job after that, no matter what is going on behind the scenes. And clearly there's a lot of good managers, both sort of young within this country, but also abroad as well, that just needs to come in and needs to wipe the slate clean and understand the situation. And how can it be justified to him keep his job next season? It just can't.
And I think the frustration for a lot of Leicester fans, as I was talking, leaving the ground yesterday, was that actually they did show a bit of fight. They hit the post early on. We've spoken about the Conor Cody goal that got ruled out. It wasn't one-sided as maybe you'd expect when the top team in the country play the team second from bottom in the league. Same at Brighton last week. Showed great fighting ability in that, but it's too late, isn't it? Their fate is already sealed. And the question I asked to Ruud van Nistelrooy was,
we'll find out what the question was in a minute. Again, was it a good performance? No, it wasn't. It was a better performance, but and everybody says, "Oh, look at the Brighton result, look at the Liverpool result, look at the performances. That should be enough to keep Ruud van Nistelrooy in his job." No, it shouldn't. Look at the previous 15 matches where he wouldn't change, that run of games where he was picking the same teams week in, week out. When Steve Cooper left, and I'm not saying Steve Cooper is a good appointment. I know I wanted him. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'm talking about him tonight on Lox's channel at 7, so do check that out. When Steve Cooper left, we were in 15th. When Steve Cooper left, we had a plus goal difference. That man took us on a run of 15-odd games where he would not change. A bit like Enzo did last season. Do you remember when we were 17 points clear and we ended up only being 1 point clear? Now, that's fine when you're 17 points clear. You can be a little bit stubborn. But we've never been in that position, Ruud. And I'm fed up with saying this. Insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It's like if I start on the M69 leaving Leicester, I know it's always going to take me to Coventry. I'm never going to set off on the M69 and it's going to take me to Nottingham. Never. I set off every day on the M6. That's the equivalent of what Ruud is doing. And that's why he should be nowhere near our club.
Why didn't we see these fighting qualities earlier? And he said, well, we did in some games, but I would argue not in enough matches. There's people like Russell Martin, who I know is highly thought of at Leicester. To my knowledge, there's been no conversation.
No. Do not have that man come anywhere near our club whatsoever. What is this? Loving with Russell Martin, who, let's look at, has been sacked by Luton, who got relegated, was sacked by Southampton, who got relegated. Southampton are actually worse than us. All right, you could argue when we took Nigel Pearson on, his team at Southampton were only 1 place better than us, but they stayed up in our place. I mean, all we do is, Russell Martin gets teams up. Okay, thank you, Gray. He got Luton up, amazing, albeit playoffs, obviously. He got Southampton up, amazing, although be it playoffs. And he got them both relegated, and yet that's the guy. And we're not going to say to him, here's a rolling 1-year contract, go and get us up and we'll see how. No. We'll give him a 3-year contract and then we'll have to pay him off. I've learnt from my mistakes. No, you haven't. Because you're just Ruud van Nistelrooy, Mark 27. Because what you've done is you haven't learned from your mistakes. Because if you had, Southampton wouldn't have gone down. Because you did the same with Luton. What's interesting, like I say, Ange Postecoglou, I'll never say that name, Ange the Mange at Spurs, could be sacked even if they win the European trophy. And believe it or not, and this is on Sky, believe it or not, they are looking at Scott Parker. Now, everybody laughs at Scott Parker, but I tell you what, he knows how to get a team out of the Championship, but he never keeps his job when he gets up. So, and when in a mad moment, I'm thinking, oh, Scott Parker. I then have to remind myself, oh, Bournemouth sacked him. Oh, Fulham sacked him. And I have to think of that. Some of these managers, like Daniel Farke, I can see what Leeds are thinking. How many times did he get Norwich promoted? Exactly the same number as he got them relegated. No Scott Parker.
As yet with him, Lee Carsley, who I think would love a tilt at club management. Obviously, he's got roots in the Midlands. I think he would come in to the conversation. What?
Lee Carsley, now, 3 players have been linked with us, aren't they? The guy I've just been talking about, whose name I've instantly... Russell Martin, tried to get that out of my mind. Danny Roll, who of course is at Sheffield Wednesday. And a certain gentleman we just mentioned there, Lee Carsley. I've got to say, I don't know enough about him to say whether I'd want him or not. Because I only know him as the England understudy. Did he do okay? I mean, he Southgate did what he did, move up temporarily and then got it. I mean, as we know, he didn't get the England job permanently, but I don't know. I don't know about him. He's one I don't know about. I still go back and say, look at what Manny's saying. Willie Caballero, Corberan, some of these players that we've got to decide how we want to play and get the manager to fit that.
What happens next for Van Nistelrooy? Because his stock was quite high after that caretaker spell at Manchester United. That's why he got the job in the first place. Well,
they played Leicester twice. That's why. That's why.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know where he can go. I mean, it might have to be the Championship, but there's not going to be a Premier League club that's going to look at that and say, do you know what? It's not even the points. It's the fact of, for a long period of time, he was just picking the same side all the time. He wasn't changing anything, either in personnel or with systems. He was towards the end, but it just...
Now, this is what I'm saying about talkSPORT. We all say, we don't like talkSPORT. We don't like what they say. Spot on, Scott. Absolutely 100% spot on. Nail head hit it. Saying what we all think.
It was same old, and you know what you're going to get. And now I said this on Saturday with Adrian as well, that I can't remember when the West Ham game was. It was 6-8 weeks ago, and Wolves were on 23 points at that time. I said Wolves don't have to play another game. Trust me, Leicester will not get above 23 points. And
what, they are now 18?
18.
Yeah.
18 now, and they won't obviously do it.
No.
And you just sort of think, actually, if it hadn't have been for the half-decent start to the season, they'd be fighting Southampton to try and avoid that record as well. They've been that poor. I think for most of the season, apart from the beginning bit, they've been every bit as bad as Southampton.
What do you make of the situation involving Harry Winks? Because he wasn't...
I am worried. I've said this season, I love this guy. I need to get Scott Minto on my show. I'm agreeing with him too much here. I wanted Southampton not to beat Derby's record. I know everybody else said, no. Keep Derby as having the lowest ever points total in the Premier League. And I understand why. I get that 100%. But when you look at this season, let's say Southampton had finished on 10 points. And that would have been a new low for the Premier League. That is what the story of the relegation battle would have been. It would have been a case of the worst ever team in Premier League history was Southampton. Nothing about Ipswich, nothing about Leicester. It would have all been about that. Now, of course, they could actually catch us up. And would you 100% look at me in the eye, and go, we will 100% be above Southampton come the end of the season? No, we won't. We might be. They are what? 8 points behind us, and we've got to play them. So look, 8 points behind us. We've got to play. We've got a lot of games to play. You know, let's have a look who we've got coming up. I would have done if it had been on the right page for me. We've got Wolves next, 3 o'clock Saturday. They're going to beat us. I reckon so. Then we play Southampton. So the problem is, I don't know who Southampton have got, but we could be, if we're still that 8 points clear, Southampton beat us. And look, do you remember that when we got relegated 2 seasons ago, Southampton were bottom, but they beat us twice. They should have beaten us in that first game earlier on in the season at the Mary's. We got agile with that one with Jordan Ayew's 127-minute goal or whatever it was. I exaggerate, of course. But if Southampton beat us, the difference between us will be 5 points. Whoever they've got next, if they get a point off them, I don't know who they've got. Somebody will tell me, I'm sure. They could be even less. We then play Forest. Are we going to get any points from that? No. We then have Ipswich. We're going to get any points off them? Well, Gray thinks not as well. I think we might get a point. That might put us to 6. We've got Bournemouth on the last day. Now, we know Bournemouth on the last days aren't particularly brilliant. If they'd beaten Everton, we wouldn't have had all this to talk about, because we'd have stayed in the Premier League. Thank you, Paddy. But Bournemouth will probably beat us as well. So we could be down to just 2 or 3 points difference between Southampton and us. And if we don't beat Southampton, which I don't necessarily think we will, and I don't necessarily think, that there's games there that we will win, we could be pipped, and then that will be the story. Look, we've won enough awards. We're the most relegated team ever. All right, you could say we're the most promoted team ever. But to be the most promoted team, you've got to be the most relegated. It's all, half full, half empty glasses. But it would just be another record if Southampton come up and do that. The problem with getting Steve Walsh back, Ray, are you talking about the player or are you talking about the coach? Because if you're talking about the coach, no. What did he do when he went to Everton? Nothing. Everton don't rate him. Steve Walsh was part of that team. Steve Walsh, Nigel, Craig, rest in peace. They were a team. The Scouts, you're on about the Scout, yeah. But they are about that was the team that did it. Like I say, when Steve Walsh went off to Everton, he'd shot his bolt. Excuse me, he hadn't got anything left. No good players. They bought nobody under Steve Walsh and they ended up sacking him. So, no, his moment has come, gone, and disappeared. Right, let's go on.
Part of the squad yesterday, there was a picture on social media, I think posted by his partner, pretty close to kick-off, of them enjoying a sort of Easter Sunday afternoon out. Looked like there were a couple of Aperol Spritz on the table. Obviously, he's just become a dad. That was one of the reasons I think he refused to stay in Leicester, because he wanted to be at home with his newborn baby. It's not a great look, though, is it, for Harry Winks? You've got a game when your relegation fate could be sealed. You're not anywhere near the stadium.
Now, it's funny that these stories come out afterwards. Harry Winks, who hadn't been picked for the previous game anyway, when he signed for the club, he may well have said to the club, I'm happy to sign for you, but I live here. And because I live here, I don't particularly want to move. I'm looking to start a family. I'm looking to settle down. Excuse me. Damn cough. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Reed, but who did he... tell me who he found at Everton that you could put into that bracket. Did he find Haaland? But look, so he might have said to the Leicester board, I don't want to move. Look, we were so desperate, we just got relegated. And let's be honest with you, he was a fantastic player for us at that level. They may have said, we don't mind, travel every day. And a lot of players do, Vestergaard does, etc. Is it too much to say? I mean, you could go down the Roy Keane line, which is, in the World Cup, it was in America. Why should that player not play? Well, he's just had a baby. Well, he hasn't. His wife had. Why can't he come? I mean, that's the Roy Keane sort of attitude. That is me, with the way that I'm being treated by Rude, as in not even in the squads and what have you. And you expect me, when a new baby has just been born, not a grandchild as I've just had, my actual, is it a son or daughter, I'm not sure, then I would have told them to fuck off. Football clubs come and go. He could have done that and then we could have sold him in the summer. You do not have those moments with your children again. They come round. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going to disagree with Scott, but I'm actually on Team Winks on this one. Children, football is a game. It's an expensive game, I grant you, but it's a game. Your children come along once in a lifetime. Twice, 3 times, depending obviously how many you have. If he had gone, and apparently Leicester's rules are that if you play at home, you turn up to the match, even if you're not in the squad. Seems a bit Irish, but there you go. I get it, I suppose, for the support. Thank you, Gray. But sorry, I was just looking at Ray's comment. Then I'll come back to that. What would have happened if he hadn't been there when his wife was having a baby? And something had happened. And thank God it didn't, but what if something had happened and the baby hadn't made it? Either A, at the birth, or B, let's be honest with you, those first 48 hours are absolutely crucial. And you want the player to turn up to a fucking match that he's not even playing, Rude? Rude, you're a wanker. I'm sorry. I would have told you, like I say, to go shove the club at your big fat Dutch arse. There is family. Family is more important than anything else on this world at all. And Ray, look, if he discovered one player, wow, whoopie-doo. One player for Everton. That's going to keep us up and that's going to make a difference. I know what you're saying. He was good when he was at Leicester, but his time has come. Let's carry on listening to what they have to say about Harry Winks.
And Rude said afterwards that actually players, whether they're in the squad or not, they are expected to attend home games.
Yes, absolutely, and he can get fined 2 weeks' wages if he wasn't. I mean, I'll try and choose my words carefully here because, listen, there's nothing more important than family. There's nothing more important than your children, and to be there for the birth of your child, nothing can supersede that. But you're getting paid a lot of money to play for a football club. And if the manager and your football club is really struggling towards the bottom end of relegation and they're paying you that money and you're in the Premier League, then you have to make sacrifices.
No, you don't. You have to make sacrifices if you avoid having Christmas dinner. Make sacrifices if it's your wife's birthday. Excuse me. To some point, make sacrifice if you're in the team. He wasn't even in the bloody team. He shouldn't have to make sacrifices.
And all he was asking for was, it was one night, wasn't it, the night before a game to stay over. And I get it, and I get the pressure it can be from partners and wives and stuff, but I'm sorry, there comes a point where you're enjoying those trappings of that, so actually there are certain sacrifices that have to be made. It wasn't as if he was saying you've got to live up here all the time. It's not a million miles away either, is it? But at the same time, I'm with Van Nistelrooy on this one.
I think it highlights a problem before.
No, Scott, I've agreed with a lot of what you've said here, but no. Have you got kids, Scott? Because I tell you what, if your wife is listening to that, I hope you got a bloody dinner over your head when you got home. He wasn't even in the squad. Well, he wasn't there, so he couldn't be in the squad. But was he in the squad for the Brighton game? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But, yeah, great. I agree with you on this one. I've agreed with a lot of what he said, but that one I don't. I mean, let's just have a look. See if I can... Brighton, we were away, weren't we? Brighton versus Leicester. Two. Lineups, here we go. Substitutes. Yeah, he was not even in the squad for Brighton. He wasn't even on the subs bench for Brighton. And then you say, but I need you to turn up to watch the game. You're not going to be in the squad again, but I need you to watch the game. Sorry, Scott. I've agreed with the things you've said. As Gray said there, you're talking bullshit on that one.
We move on to Liverpool. In that Leicester dressing room, I was in the tunnel, loitering around, waiting to speak to the managers after the game yesterday, and a colleague pointed out to me, a lot of the Leicester players, as they were heading, back to their cars, back to their homes after the game, wash bags under their arms, they looked too happy about the fact their team had just been relegated. They didn't seem to be hurting enough. Certainly not hurting as much as the fans are.
Yeah, do you know what? I think when you're in that position, and I've been there when things are going well, I've been there when things aren't going well, you sometimes put on a bit of a facade, and you think that you need to make it seem like you're, I can deal with this, it's not a problem, I'm not... When actually that's totally the wrong thing to do. You should be showing that you're hurting. You should be showing that you're realising you're just not good enough at this particular moment in time, and the fans want to be able to see that. You should be reflecting what the fans are feeling. So, look, I understand to a point where the players are coming across, because I've been there. You want to make it look as if, no, I'm okay. It's not a problem. I can deal with this. When actually, you're not dealing with it, because we're seeing the results on the pitch.
Yeah, and there was also images on TV, and they were clipped up on social media of the owner sort of giggling away, heading into stoppage time. His team are 1-0 down, heading into the Championship. That didn't go down well with Leicester fans either.
Look, I mean, you're not telling me that he's not happy. Yeah, or he's happy being in this situation. Of course it's not. And that camera would have been on...
Optics, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but the camera would have been on for the whole 90 minutes, and I'm sure it would have been, even if it was in the first couple of minutes, might have been clipped up as if it was the last couple of minutes. Yeah, of course, you're in that situation where, especially if you are the owner, you shouldn't even be able to break into a smile. But again, I
This is something that I brought up. And everybody's saying, you don't know what might have happened. The guy in front of him might have just dropped his trousers, and John Rudkin might have told him a knock-knock joke. Do you remember a while ago, Man City, I think, were playing, and Haaland, who could have gone to Everton, according to Ray, Haaland scored a goal, and Jamie Vardy had got the ball under his arm, had walked back to the centre line to take the kick-off, and was having a joke with Haaland. Now, they could be best buddies. It could be Gary and Phil Neville. That's what... I don't care. Haaland had just scored. You don't go and have a laugh and a joke with him. And, all right, it could... Is it being taken out of context? No, because I actually saw it live. I know when it happened. Like you say, we were 1-0 down at the time, and whatever the reason, you don't want to be caught doing that. There's cameras at the ground. There's cameras all the way around. It's a live Sky game as well. It's going to be picked up on. No, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that smiling at all. Top, you were bang out of order.
Again, optics, you're right, but it's about what you do on the pitch and the recruitment behind the scenes. And that's where it needs to be sorted. For me, that's optics, nothing more than that, but it's a reflection of where they are. Not good enough. And I do worry for Leicester. Obviously they bounced back at the first time of asking last time around. Again, we talk about the regulations that's going to be coming in for them, the players they're going to have to sell, whoever they can sell. The ones they can't, they're going to be struggling to get off the wage bill. Leicester City may well be struggling to get back into the Premier League in the near to mid-term future.
Well, they haven't got a striker, have they? They're relying on a 38-year-old in Jamie Vardy. Patson Daka came on yesterday, but, his Leicester career has been very underwhelming. Big summer ahead, big decisions to be made by the Foxes hierarchy as well. It's our understanding at talkSPORT the talks between Ruud van Nistelrooy and the owners will take place this week. We'll, of course, keep you bang up to date on any developments there.
This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
It would be a...
There we go. We'll come on to these two in a second. Vards was laughing that Haaland was simply unstoppable and he was blown away. Whatever it is, he shouldn't have been doing it. Simple as. Simple as. So, we are going to be in trouble next year. We are going to have a EFL breathing down our necks. I don't think we're going to come back up. And you know what? Now look, now those of you that know this channel, you'll know the, let's call it banter, that I have with Leeds fans. But there is one Leeds fan, Carl. He's a good mate of the channel. And Carl, the Levy and I can't remember what it's called, podcast. I apologise, Carl and Doug. But he's a good mate, and he's a decent Leeds fan. And you know what he said to me? I think it was him that said it. It might have been another Leeds fan, so I apologise. Yeah, I hope so as well. Gray. What he said was, maybe it was a good thing us not coming back up straight away. Yet financially we took you take a hit. They got rid of players that didn't necessarily want to be there. And yet, all right, you lose players like Gray, who's his family are an icon at that club, etc. But if they don't want to be there, they don't want to be there. They got the money that they could for the players that wanted to go, that they could sell. And then they did it this season. And it looks like they could be going up as champions. Do you remember when we got... You remember the don't scratch your eyes moment? Yeah, that one, I'm afraid. Had we gone up that season, maybe that would have been a season too early for us, because we struggled when we went up the following season. But obviously the great escape, and the rest is history, as they say. So maybe not coming back up straight away last season might have been. And I said I would have been happy with, even 7th if it prepared us for the following season. And I'm going to say the same next year. If we don't go up, I don't want us to be in the bottom half. I think then you've got to ask serious questions. But if we're 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and it means we can move on further, I think that could be a good thing. As indeed did Gray say. He agrees with me. We're agreeing too much, Gray. We're going to have to stop this, Mike is in. Good afternoon, Mike. How the devil are you? Congratulations on Newport County staying up. That's his proper club. And Ant is in as well. Hi, Ant. How the devil are you? Those that are just joining, you've missed the Alex Crook and Scott Minto part of the show. But as you can see, we are about to move on to Jim White and Simon Jordan. Yeah. All I can say is, let's dive into this. Because the first one wasn't too bad. Like I say, a few of those comments hurt. And please, guys, don't just put in the comments, no disrespect, Gray, but don't put in the comments, he's shit, he's crap, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We've got to take some hard medicine. We've got to say, we've got to listen to things that's going to hurt. If somebody says, you know what, Leicester are shit. Yes, we are. We can't deny it. And we've got to take, accept that and take it. Let's see what these two guys have got to say. Jim White and Simon Jordan, the morning show on talkSPORT.
Miss of us not to question why Leicester have had such an indifferent season. Southampton down, yeah, and a desperately poor season from them. They've won 2 in 33 and they sit rooted at the foot with 11 points. They've gone. Now Leicester have gone too. In 19th position. They've won 4 in 33 and have managed to amass 18 points. 4 wins in 33 all season long, with Leicester losing 16 of 20 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy. We're going to look at this Leicester situation in detail in a second. This was Van Nistelrooy after the latest defeat at the hands of Liverpool.
I'm focused on and I'm taking my responsibility to do the best things for this football club, taking it into the future, next season. And performances like the Brighton and the Liverpool game are signs that players are willing to do that and develop and take it, finish the season the best way possible and taking it into next season, because the new season will start and continue and in the championship for this football club next season. So you have to take the responsibility, and that's what I'm doing.
Now, I've got a cold at the moment. I've got a cough, and I've got a blocked nose, but something is working its way through. It must be Ruud's bullshit. I am one to focus on, and he never told us what he wants to focus on. That is your standard BS. That exactly, Ben. That is standard BS that a manager gives out in this position. Didn't we hear all this under Brendan Rodgers? You know, it's. I just thank you, Greg. I'm fed up with hearing the same thing. We were not that good against Liverpool. Yes, on paper, if you look at it, you go, well, Liverpool, who are about to be crowned more than likely Premier League champions, and well done. AOBCA, anyone but City. And I'm happy, and I don't have a problem. I like Liverpool. But we only let 1 goal in. Yeah, we were fucking lucky, let's be honest with you. If they'd have had proper shooting boots on, and yes, I will say the defence did well, and for once the defence was, we were amped, quite right, totally. The defence were actually trying to throw themselves in front of it, although if you notice for their goal, Wout Faes, my favourite player, put his arms behind his back and turned sideways on. Now, I'm a fat bastard, so I'm as wide that way as I am that way. But most players that are fit aren't. They're a lot thinner that way than they are that way. So he turns his side onto it. Why? Because he's a wanker. But, you know, if we go out and say we defend really, really well, we don't concede many goals, and, you know, we managed to get 38 0-0s. Under normal circumstances, that would not keep the right. Last season and this season, 38 would almost qualify us for Europe. But in previous seasons, that wouldn't have been enough to keep us up. We have to sort it out the other end. We did not have a shot on target. Now, you could say, well, you know, look at look at Gwenete. Wasn't he a World Cup winner? Could be wrong. Thought he was. You know, we hit the post. That was unlucky. The goal should have maybe counted. Okay, but it didn't. But when you look at the facts and figures, we did not have 1 shot on target. Southampton actually scored a goal against West Ham. And all right, yeah, I know what you're going to say. Well, they were playing West Ham. We were playing Liverpool. Yes, I know. But they had a shot on target. And it is not any good. Any Premier League team that plays 97 odd minutes of football, which is the average length of the games these days, and does not have a shot on target, do not deserve to be in the Premier League. That's all I'm saying.
For the next 5 weeks, and after that we have to see.
So after that, we have to see Premier League champions, Simon, FA Cup winners, and Champions League football, followed by 2 relegations. Has any club experienced a bigger decade of extremes than Leicester City?
That's an interesting question. Because I'm saying there, have Leicester reached a new low? We know supporting Leicester is a roller coaster. We do have ups, we do have downs. Every club does. Look, Manchester United, and I know we've got Mike in with us here, who's a Man United fan. They think they are this super wonderful club. They're not. They're an average football club who had a good run. Yes, you could, Mike. Yes, you could. And we discussed that earlier, to be honest with you. If you look at Man United pre-Fergie, they were nothing special. They won the odd cup here, odd cup there. Yes, they won 1 Europa League. You could argue how they got their fame worldwide, and I'm not going to go into that, but we all probably know why. And it's wrong, but that's what happens. But look, before Man United, there was Liverpool. If you go back far enough, Huddersfield Town, Blackpool, they were all the big names. Clubs have runs. Manchester City, they were down in the 3rd tier, like we were. They came up with eventually through the playoffs. Every team has ups and downs. Ours just hasn't gone on as long as Man United's did. You've got exactly great. Chelsea were nothing. Chelsea were a 2nd tier team when we were before Abramovich. Obviously, money makes a difference. Would we have done what we did without King Power? Probably not with their money. But clubs have these runs. And we have had for us, a bloody good run. Can we sustain it like Liverpool, Man United did, Chelsea and Man City? No. We can't. Compare the last 10 years for us to the last 10 years, for Tottenham. We've been the better team. And I just think we have to take the ups with the downs. Look at Liverpool. Liverpool never knew when they won their last Premier League before Man United became dominant. They never thought, was it 23 or was it 30 years it took them to win a Premier League title again? And then they only did it once. I think they're going to do it a second time, of course, this season. And that's the thing. That is the thing that, these clubs, they do have cycles when they're in top, unless you're in Scotland because there's only 2 teams, so they tend to share it. But, we've got the 6th, So, Gray, totally. You have to take the ups with the downs. There's an old joke, isn't there? Supporting Leicester City is like riding a roller coaster. At the moment, we are on the way down. And I dare say, if I'd said to everybody, look, 10 years ago, we're going to get promoted. We're going to break loads of club records and get promoted. We're going to do the greatest great escape that this country's ever seen in its top flight history. We're then going to win the Premier League. We're going to get through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We're going to finish 5th twice. Some moaners say we should have in the argument we should have finished 4th, but we finished 5th and would have taken that beforehand. We're going to get through to a semi-final of a European competition, only to be beaten by Jose Mourinho's Roma, who actually went on to win it. And then we're going to win the FA Cup, which we've never done. We'd had 4 attempts at before, the biggest team not to have won it, and the team that's lost the most finals in not winning it. But we're going to win it. But then you're going to have a couple of bad seasons, possibly 3 or 4 bad seasons. And you know what? You know what's going to happen? you're going to break a lot of records for getting relegated. But do you still want it? Do you still want to have those good 10 years? Too fucking true, I do. Hi, Prashant. How you doing?
No, you've seen the dizzy heights of winning a Premier League as an outlier and building a very formidable set of players that everyone else wanted to buy, whether it be Mahrez or whether it be Drinkwater or whether it be N'Golo Kante, whoever else that they had poached off them. I mean, the constant theme for that was Jamie Vardy, who didn't go to Arsenal, and he has to be commended for that, having the loyalty or a lack of ambition, depends where you want to look at it.
I mean, Jamie Vardy, lack of ambition. In that time, what have Arsenal won? I think it was one FA Cup. He's actually won more at Leicester. And it is a glass half full, glass half empty. You can call him loyal, maybe lack of ambition. But isn't it nice to have a footballer? And look, at the moment, I'm not Vardy's biggest fan. I'm probably one of his biggest critics at the moment. But I can say, if you walk through this door now, I'd bend over and drop my trousers for him. But just in case you're watching this, Jamie, don't think about it. But you know what? If he'd gone to Tottenham, what would he have won? I can remember when we qualified for the Champions League, Arsene Wenger, who was then Arsenal manager, said, you know what, Leicester are going to humiliate us, English football, in the Champions League. We got through to the quarterfinals. I'm not sure if you even got out of the group that year, Arsene. And if you did actually, because you got through. You got beaten over 2 legs, 10-2, I think it was, by Bayern. Yeah, it was the embarrassment, eh? But I think you'll call it loyalty rather than lack of ambition, Simon.
At Leicester. I mean, there's a part of me that's quite glad Leicester got relegated. I think they bucked the system. I think they broke the rules and they got around it by legalese, which isn't what football's about. But football also isn't about PSR. So it shouldn't be about that either.
See, he's saying there, and he will get everybody to agree with him, football shouldn't be about PSR, and yes, it is at the moment. But as Craig said on last night's show with Rob Tanner, we all voted for this. All Premier League clubs voted for this. Look, he is saying, as I said this at the start, he is saying what everybody, every other club is saying as well. If Forest had done what we did, and they got away with it, would we, as Leicester fans, be saying, "Well done, Forest. You showed them what you showed them, didn't you? Eh? Well done." But we didn't break any rules. The rules were just shit. As the lawyer said, Nick, and I've forgotten his name now, but what he said was, you cannot break rules if they are good rules. Only bad rules and incorrect rules can be broken. Good points there, Mike and Gray. The other one above it, I don't know. You're obviously not a Leicester fan. Probably a Leeds fan, to be honest with you. Have you sacked Farke yet? It says you're going to. Falling apart, eh? Leeds United. We probably won't win it in 50 years. But if you were Nick DeMarco, thank you, Geordie, thank you. But Liars, if you were actually brave enough to put your team on there, and tell us the last time you won the top flight. Now, I don't know, you could be Man City and you could say you won it last season, and well done to you. Personally, look, I think if you're taken over by a club, fuck it. If they're rich, they're rich. Go out and do what you want. Is it unfair? Yes, it is. But, we turn around and say, well, Man City got the money, Newcastle have got the money. Bury, Rochdale, Oldham, Newport, they will all look at Leicester and go, yeah, look at you there, you got rich owners. It's all relative. It's all relative. He's also our solicitor as well. He does do that as well, I believe.
They got within the rules. They didn't break the rules. They got within them.
No, they
Exactly,
got in between
Jim.
the wall and the wallpaper, and they created an opportunity based upon a Bermuda Triangle of bad rule
But they found a
drafting.
loophole, and the Premier League have now changed that.
Yeah, they found a loophole to avoid the challenges of the championship.
But there's a loophole, Simon. If the loophole is there, then shouldn't we exploit it? Would you have exploited it if this had been Crystal Palace and when you were still owner? Of course you bloody would, you knobhead. Of course you would. And I don't mean that horribly, and I apologise for calling you that, but any club owner would have done. Exactly. Excuse me, this bloody cough. We should exploit it. Oh, am I going to last
It's
this?
unfair on the rest of the clubs in the Championship. They were able to get around the rules in the Championship by saying they were in the Premier League when they were asked to comply with the Championship rules, and when they were in the Championship, they weren't able to be caught by the Premier League.
No, but that was one of the few wins that Leicester can actually boast they had.
Correct, but I didn't much appreciate it, and I didn't much appreciate. It's very nice for Nick DeMarco to lie in his pocket, and if you ever want to get a business in sport, own a legal firm. That's more money in it, because it's now a proper industry. But
there's part of you that's glad then that they've dropped.
Well, I think they've got their just rewards to some extent. I think they've also been unfortunate to some extent because they lost their manager. So a manager that got them out of the division was immediately taken away from them. So they didn't have that opportunity. They didn't fancy Steve Cooper. And like a lot of these Leicester fans, they've not fancied managers over the years, and their managers have gone. And they got Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in. Ruud van Nistelrooy would never have got the job in a million years if he hadn't have had 4 games in charge of Manchester United. And that was the credentials. I know that we've spoken to various Dutch journalists.
When you look at it, when we got Enzo, he'd had 12 jobs as a manager at Parma. Ruud van Nistelrooy had almost a full season and had won a cup for PSV in Holland. So he actually should be a more experienced manager. And look, yes, Enzo has had the experience of working under Pep, and he's had the experience in English football. Ruud van Nistelrooy's had loads of experience in English football, hasn't he? Let's be honest with you. But he was, I wanted him. A lot of us wanted him. But he got that job on those 4 games. Ruud van Nistelrooy's 4 games in charge of Man United got him that position. Because 2 of them were actually against us. And when we played Man United 4 times this season. 2 cups, 2 league games. Do you know what? We've lost all 4. 2 under Cooper, 2 under Van Nistelrooy. Just saying.
Journalists that told us that he would be fine and he would be a good coach, and he was a good coach and did a good job at PSV.
And can I just say, he wanted to work at Man United. If Amorim had said to him, excuse me, would you come to stay at Man United and be on my coaching staff? He would have been on his knees sucking Amorim's cock, allegedly, as quick as I can fill the toilet when I've got diarrhea. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it. I literally couldn't think of anything then. But he was pissed off that he didn't want him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had him. We would not have got him at all. Maybe I should cut that bit out. It's not live. Nobody's watching.
Yeah, but it was not a parallel universe where that fella was getting a job if he hadn't played Leicester twice as the Man United manager.
Agree with Simon there.
Let's have it right.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I don't know what Ruud van Nistelrooy is all about. I don't know whether he's been given a very unfair deck of cards. That means you can't judge him in the here and now. But you don't bring a manager in to make things worse. You bring a manager in to make things better. And so the fact they've gotten worse indicates a certain challenge to overcome. He obviously thinks he's staying, or he's talking a good game for the purpose of holding
he's
the
trying
line
to.
for whoever's purpose it's on.
Yeah.
They haven't spent a lot of money. They haven't spent a lot of money for a few years now, the Leicester owners, and they're entitled not to have to spend money every single year if they don't wish to. This Leicester ownership model has been obviously steeped in tragedy, but very good for that football club in so many ways. And they've now got to go back and rebuild. Now, whether Van Nistelrooy, to say in isolation, well, would you keep him if you were the owner of Leicester? I can only answer that by being the owner of Leicester, knowing what hand I gave him.
Well, look at what Dragon Solite did, Simon, at Southampton with Ivan Juric. You binned him off.
Yeah, because
there's still a bunch of games to play.
It was a bad appointment in the first place. It was a head scratcher in the first place. Van Nistelrooy, okay, again, I think it was a bit of a head scratcher. I think it was lazy appointments because it looked like, Ruud van Nistelrooy, good name, got a bit of credentials, did okay at PSV, last 4 games at Man United. I mean, you could have got a bounce at Man United because the games that Man United played under his management and with the crowd behind him gave him that little bounce.
Yeah.
But Van Nistelrooy would have sunk like a stone at Man United if he'd stayed any longer, and all of that would have gone away. So the thing is, has he given you any cause to believe that he can deal with the consequences of the requirements next season?
No. Basically, that is the answer. That is what I have just been listening to from Simon Jordan is probably the most sense I've heard him speak in a long, long time.
Which is, Leicester have got to bounce back. Because right now, the answer has to be no, but the question is, why has it sunk like a stone with him there?
Yeah.
And if you as an ownership model know that you didn't give him the helping hands that he would have required to affect the outcomes, then you're almost duty bound to give him another spin of the wheel.
Yeah.
But only they know that.
Not enough people speak out and say, look, it's on us. And Jamie Vardy has done that. And his final line on his Instagram account, this season has been nothing but miserable. And for me personally, a total embarrassment. It hurts. And I know you're feeling it too, the fans. So to the fans, I'm sorry. Sorry we haven't performed and sorry we end the 25 season with such a show. He hasn't hung about. It's like, it's on us. We messed up. And sorry to...
There's a few players have put stuff out. Patson Daka put something out today. Excuse me. The interesting ones for me, Ricardo and Jamie Vardy, because yes, whilst they are accepting some of the blame, they are also saying what all us fans know. It isn't just the players. Yes, the players have to take a lot of responsibility. The manager has to take his share of responsibility. The board has to take their share of responsibility. Director of football, and I'm not going to go into that, watch the show from last night, number 6 in the Project Reset series. And the owner has to take some responsibility. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Gray, but like I've just said, they're all got to take the responsibility. But it's interesting that 2 senior players have come out and go, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of problems at this club, and that goes deeper. Like I say, do check it out on LTID TV. Project Reset number 6, sack the board.
You guys out there.
I was just stating.
He's right.
Well, he's right by stating the obvious. But why was that? What is it you didn't have? What were you not given? Were you good enough to achieve it?
Because... Yeah, but at least he's saying that though, Simon. Listen to Romero this morning at Tottenham. Yeah, I cannot wait to play in La Liga.
But context is everything. I have to say, in all fairness to the conversation that we're trying to create here around Romero, we don't know the context in which he was asked this question and what the full length and breadth of what he actually said.
Yeah,
so it's
he's
not
got form on this.
Well, again, he's got form because he's been asked before, and again, the questions have to be given context. Look, the bottom line is that Vardy stayed with Leicester for a long time. He's very popular. I think his race is run as an elite footballer in terms of being able to play in the Premier League, be able to give the kind of attainment that's required. But I still think he was a very useful squad player for Leicester this season.
Yeah.
Again, it's hurting a little bit, but yeah, indeed, Gray. Not everything meets the eye. I'm agreeing with Simon again. I think, why have we been left with our number one striker being a 38-year-old who can only play games when he's down a couple of cans of Red Bull? That should have been sorted. Yeah, all right, we got Daka in. I think it's been obvious that Daka wasn't working after last season. Ruud van Nistelrooy came in. Oh, I like Daka. I tried to buy him at PSV. Vardy's my number one. Have the balls to drop Vardy. Vardy should have been our super sub this season. Tom Cannon, is he any good? People are saying, well, he isn't doing it to Sheffield United. That doesn't mean he couldn't have done it at Leicester. How do we know? These people that come out and go, Skip's an awful player. How do you know? He hasn't fucking played enough games for us. Tom Cannon, how do we know what he would have been like? We haven't seen enough of him. we would have written Iheanacho off, right? We would have written Iheanacho off because he was playing a bit part. When he came on, he wasn't scoring. When he was made number one striker that season, he ended up our top goal scorer. If we don't give these players the chance to show us what they can do, we cannot call them rubbish. And anybody who does do that, yes, it's their opinion. Yes, they're entitled to their opinion. But don't give an opinion on what you cannot discuss, because I can't say that Skip is any worse than Ndidi or Skip is any worse than Sumari or Winks. I haven't seen enough of him.
And when he did play, was able to play, I think, you saw him at the beginning of the season. He gave Tottenham a hard time in the first or second game of the season, didn't he? And obviously gave it back to the Tottenham fans, reminding them of who's won a Premier League title. But I always find those sort of things.
Why bother?
Why are you doing it, mate? Why are you doing it? What's the purpose of it? So that you can be popular with those that are shouting and screaming about the unhappiness they've got. You were part of it. There's more dignity and discipline in accepting that politely. It's like someone who gives money to charity and tell everybody gives money to charity. If you want to give money to charity, give it to charity. You haven't got to broadcast it.
Yeah, keep it quiet. 38 now, Jamie Vardy. Maybe time up.
Well, Simon, he isn't doing that to score points with Leicester fans, because he doesn't need to score points with Leicester fans. He's top of the league for Leicester fans. We all love him. Yes, he's probably past his best. His best by date has gone. His best before date has gone as well. His used by date, all those dates have gone. But we love him. And the fact that he's reminding the Spurs fans that we've won 1-0 is actually in response to them having a go about his wife. Now, that's another show, another time, that I will probably never, ever do. But do I want to do a show about Rebecca Vardy? Sorry, Jamie, no. But do you know what? We need characters in this game, don't we? Look at Paul Gascoigne. I actually watched him when he was at Burnley, and I lived in Burnley at the time. What a character. What a character. He lives down the road here from me. I've been to see him at a talk show that he did one night at a local hotel, Q&A. I mean, the guy's a character. We need characters in this game, because if not, it's so bloody boring. Do we want 22 robots out there kicking the ball round? No, we don't. And if players... Look, what do we want players to do, Simon? Do we want Jamie Vardy to do a Cantona and, go and kung fu kick one of their defenders? And he was a wanker, wasn't he? He was French as well. Get what you deserve, Man United. But, that's how he responded. Jamie Vardy responds, giving me banter, I'm giving you a bit of banter back. Go up, Simon.
Maybe we've seen him for the last time in the Premier League. You'd have to think so.
This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
And there we go. Let me just move my camera now back to the central position that it should be in. Just bear with me 1 second. There we are. We need shithousers. We need entertainers. Like I say, watching 22 robots kick a ball around will be pretty boring. Excuse me. Some harsh truths coming out there. Some good points made. Some points I don't agree with. But like I say, what you got to remember with talkSPORT, and I said this at the start and I'll repeat it now, what you got to remember with talkSPORT is they are not there to be your friend. They are there to wind you up so that you ring them in. Right? I'm the same on my social media, and I keep putting this. People come up and say, well, you weren't saying that yesterday. Well, no. But I post, as talkSPORT do as well. They want you to ring in. They are a phone-in station. They want you to ring in and argue and say why they are wrong. Because if you're not doing, then they're not doing the job. And sometimes, the truth hurts. It does. I put a thing out, my BBC, and it is still available on the BBC, guys. You do have to scroll down a little bit now, because there's a lot on the BBC Leicester page. But if you go down to 10:59 on the 22nd of April, yesterday, each week I do 1 week and Kate does the next week. And this week it was my turn. Great, I get all the good weeks, you know. She gets a draw at Brighton, I get a loss on a relegation. And I put there, now we are the club everyone is laughing at. We once were the club that everybody wanted to be like. We were the club that everybody wanted our owners. But they don't now, do they? An interesting thing, and I'm going to leave you with this. The truth only hurts if you're not willing to accept it. I think you probably described a lot of Leicester fans, not all of them, but a lot of Leicester fans. Imagine we all had the same opinion. It is, but it's about, look, I'd sooner Jamie Vardy do the 1-0 sign than, and no disrespect, I know you follow Man United as well, than Eric Cantona going and kicking the fan. That was obviously completely wrong. You do need different opinions, but it's the way that you do it. We can all have different opinions, and we can all have a bit of banter, as long as it stays about that. But I'm going to leave you with this thought. Are Brighton now better run than we are? When we won and it is a fans, and I'm going to be doing one of my Project Reset things, is how much responsibility have the fans got in all of this. Maybe we've got to accept some problems as well, and some of the blame. But we sailed very close to the sun. Remember Leeds when they got through? Was it the semi-finals of the what was the European Cup at the time? Well, they all ended up in the third tier. They sailed very close to the sun. They tried to live the dream. We lived the dream, but we tried to stay at the top table, and we spent, maybe we did go too far. Yes, I think they are as well. Brighton, last few seasons, have done really, really well, and they could have maybe spent a little bit of money and gone on that step further. But then, if it had gone wrong, they may have done a Leicester. So maybe Brighton not taking that extra step has stopped them doing what we've done. Join me tonight. I'll be on Lox's channel at 7 o'clock. Back tomorrow at 7 p.m. with the prediction show. Please do like the show if you've watched it. It is free and it does help the channel. Subscribe if you are new. That really does help the channel. If you've got a spare $1.99 a month, why not become a member? You couldn't even get half a pint for that. And click that notification bell, and then you will never, ever, ever miss a show. See you, Grace. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching it on catch-up, add your comments in below. And if you are listening via, like I say, your favourite podcast platform, thanks for lending me your ears. I will be back, like I say, later on. Take care, everybody. Thanks for being here. Really do appreciate your support, and I will see you later. Goodbye now.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.